The city of Jerusalem was different on this night. Streets that normally rang with the sounds of cars, voices, and hurried footsteps now seemed to breathe in silence. Shops had closed early. Windows glowed faintly from inside, where families prepared for what was about to begin. It was Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, a day when time itself seemed to pause, when a nation stood still to search its own heart. Leah walked slowly through the narrow streets, her father's hand clutched tightly in hers. He was frail now, his body stooped with age, but his spirit seemed sharper than ever. For Leah, this night carried a weight heavier than any other. She had not returned home for years. Not for Passover, not for Rosh Hashanah, not even for her mother's memorial service. Her life in Tel Aviv had kept her busy, or so she had told herself. Work, friends, distractions. But deep inside, she knew the truth. She had drifted away. From faith, from family, from herself. Her father's letter had been short, written with trembling hands. This may be my last Yom Kippur. Come home. That was enough. As the sun set, the synagogue bells and the ancient call of the shofar announced the start of Kol Nidrei. Leah and her father stepped into the synagogue together. Inside, it was crowded, yet every face seemed absorbed in the same solemn mood. White garments, prayer shawls, lowered heads, closed eyes. The cantor's voice rose, deep and haunting, reciting the ancient words that opened the holy night. Kol Nidrei, the annulment of vows. Leah felt the sound enter her bones. Each syllable was heavy, echoing centuries of prayer, pain, and forgiveness. She thought of promises she had broken, to her sister Miriam, to an old friend she never called back, even to herself, vows of honesty, of love, of courage. Her chest ached as the prayer seemed to strip away her excuses. The fast began. No food, no drink, no makeup, no perfumes, no distractions of the body. The world outside shrank. Only the soul mattered now. Hours passed. Leah sat beside her father as prayers filled the night air. The words of confession echoed through the hall. We have trespassed, we have betrayed, we have stolen, we have spoken falsely. Each phrase pierced Leah's memory. She remembered her last argument with Miriam. Words spoken in anger, words that left a wound. She remembered turning away from Rabbi Isaac, who once guided her, but whom she had abandoned when faith felt too demanding. She remembered all the small betrayals of daily life, promises ignored, truths avoided. Her throat tightened. She wanted to cry, but the tears felt dry, held back by years of silence. By midnight, the synagogue courtyard was quiet. People whispered softly or sat in silence, gathering strength for the next round of prayers. Leah and her father sat together, under the dark sky. The moon glowed faintly above them, fragile yet steady. Her father finally spoke. His voice was low, rasped with age. You came back. Leah nodded, her eyes wet. I was afraid I had come too late. He smiled faintly. It is never too late, not on this day. The next morning arrived. The hunger began to gnaw. Her lips were dry, her stomach empty, her body weak. But the prayers went on, and strangely, Leah felt a kind of strength rising inside her. The weakness of the body made the cries of the soul louder. She felt raw, exposed, yet closer to something beyond herself. Through the day, the prayers repeated, each one like a hammer striking the heart. Repentance, confession, forgiveness. The rabbis spoke of how Yom Kippur was not only about God's forgiveness, but also about seeking forgiveness from those we wronged. Leah thought of Miriam again, of her mother's grave she had avoided, of the friends she had lost to pride. She whispered silently, Forgive me. By late afternoon, the air in the synagogue was heavy with exhaustion. Yet as the final service approached, Neilah, the closing prayer, a new urgency filled the room. The gates were closing. Time was running out. It was the last chance to pour the heart out before heaven. Leah felt her pulse quicken. The prayers surged louder, voices rising together as if one soul. Her father's hand trembled in hers, but his lips moved steadily, each word burning with faith. Leah's own voice cracked, but she kept going, praying not just for forgiveness, but for a new beginning. And then, the final shofar blast. The sound tore through the silence. Long, piercing, unbroken. It echoed in Leah's chest like a lightning strike. In that moment, she felt as though the heavens themselves had opened, and her soul had been heard. The fast was over. People embraced, whispered blessings, wiped their eyes. Water was passed around. Dates, bread, fruit. The first tastes after 25 hours of emptiness. But Leah barely noticed the food. She turned to her father. He looked at her with tired but shining eyes. "This," he whispered, "is your new start." They stepped outside into the night air. The stars above Jerusalem seemed brighter than she had ever seen. Leah breathed deeply, the first sip of water cool in her mouth, refreshing not only her body, but her spirit. She knew it would not erase the past. She still had calls to make, apologies to speak, wounds to heal. But she had crossed the threshold. Yom Kippur had stripped her bare and given her something rare, the courage to begin again. For Leah, this Yom Kippur was more than a fast, more than a ritual. It was the night she found her way back, to her family, to her people, to herself. And as she walked home with her father, hand in hand,